Greetings, everyone. How's everybody doing today? Happy New Year. It is the new year after all, and I don't think I've seen all of you. In fact, I know I have not seen all of you because I haven't seen most of you. So I guess that would be a logical statement. So anyway, Happy New Year. I'm glad to be back. I've got a new list of questions here, which I am, look, I just noticed something funny about this shirt. This is a Foo Fighters shirt that I've had for years, but the F kind of looks like a P, so it looks like it says Pooh Fighters. Anyway, just something to keep in mind when you're making fonts for your businesses. Be clear on what the font looks like, what letters it could be mistaken for. So anyway, all right, let's get going here and let's see what happens. All right, so Roland Bernath asks the question, how do I create a new structure within the company? Our family business is a decor and seasonal retail and wholesale store. In the store, we employ a total of 10 employees. The company grew over time, but there was never time and energy allocated to systematically grow it. Currently, the employees are all rotating between being at the cashier, unpacking incoming inventory, sticking labels on inventory, placing the inventory on shelves, as everybody is doing everything. Sometimes I feel like no one is doing anything. They are not responsible. There are a lot of mistakes, etc. I need proper job description and tasks. I believe I need to divide the store into segments, sales and product handling, create new job responsibilities, etc. Yep, you totally answered the question. You totally answered the question. So you do need to do that. So the first thing that I would recommend is to start with pick a category, whatever it is, just one side or the other, and make one thing work right first. Don't try to do it all at once. Just think about one thing at first. What you should do all at once is lay out the plan. So you mentioned job descriptions, so that means that org chart, all that sort of stuff, kind of what you envision it needs to be. You can do all that ahead. In fact, you should do all that ahead so you kind of know what your end goal is. But in your mind, kind of structure it out piece by piece and get one thing working well and then move on to the next thing. What I would recommend is, like, what I like about job descriptions, I do job descriptions a little differently than I think what the traditional concept is. The traditional concept of a job description is like what you see like on Indeed or something, like for hiring, where it's just got like a generic kind of paragraph that, oh, the person needs to be able to do this, or they have to have this skill, or this is what the job is about. That's not super useful on a day-to-day basis. So my job descriptions specifically outline what it means to achieve success. So actually the job description is more like a checklist than a job description, because it's basically like, I don't really care about all that kind of generic stuff we would post on Indeed. I care about the specific things that need to be done in order to for me as the boss to feel like the person's doing what they need to do, and then also have the built-in KPIs. I always like to think of it like this. So like if anybody has computer programming experience, you're familiar, or maybe even if you don't, maybe you've heard this before. When you're making a computer program, there's subroutines. There's like mini programs inside a bigger program that produce some sort of output, right? So the little program produces something and then passes that off to the next bigger part, or maybe the bigger part has multiple subroutines inside which pass its outcomes into the bigger system, which then create bigger and bigger outcomes till you get what you want. That's kind of how programming works. I look at job descriptions the exact same way. So when I lay out that big kind of org chart, I'm not doing it just like as an exercise in like, well, let's make an org chart. I'm looking at it like this is a flow chart of how the business should operate, and these are my subroutines. Each one of these people is the activity that they do is a subroutine that leads into the rest of whatever the output of the business or whatever that department is, if it's sales or if it's operations or whatever. So so yes, you answered your own question. I think you know what you need to do there. If a big part of that is going to be KPIs, like, so you know if people are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and just feeling like that you're able to measure on a daily basis what's going on, and then if something is out of whack, you can go in over there and nudge that, bump it in one direction or the other. So yeah, job descriptions in the way I describe them, highly recommended. I think that's a good place to start. If you have any questions or want to talk about that more, let me know. All right, next question. Here we go. Brianna Carroll. What is the best method to ensure franchisees stay true to all brand processes and systems put in place? I co-own a franchise called Wow Mom's World, which is a multi-service center for families, including a play place, fitness, cafe, swim, spa, etc. I was informed there is one franchisee who is continually not complying to franchisor standards. My partners have put me in charge of handling all U.S. franchisees and asked for me to go visit the locations in the new year. We already have franchisee signed agreements which state compliance, a franchisee checklist to go through, and they have asked her multiple times to change certain things. They feel they have lost her respect, so sending me in to handle it. What is the typical franchise protocol for this situation? How often should a franchisor visit franchisees to make sure they are complying? Any advice is appreciated. So in my somewhat bit of experience, I don't want to say vast experience, but I do have some experience in multiple franchise companies. I found that there's a couple things that have to be thought about. At first, you have to think about that the franchisee is kind of a weird employee in a way, because they've spent a lot of money and their time, and they've made a major commitment to be a part of this group, this franchise system, and as such, they're like entrepreneurs. They have all the risk and the burden and the commitment that entrepreneurs have. But at the end of the day, they signed up for a franchise because they wanted direction. They wanted to be able to execute. And the best franchisees are those that are good operators, that are going to follow those procedures, checklists, all that. So a franchise system owes this person kind of in two ways. One, they owe them as an investor, as somebody who's invested and committed to the brand. So they as a franchisor, there's a commitment to giving them proper tools so that they're successful, and that like you mentioned here, that the checklists and all the stuff that we've given them is clear, and that that a reasonable person can execute it and do well with it, and we know it's tested. So that's kind of the first part of it. Secondarily, kind of like with when you're creating the role, because again, it is a role that this person is executing, just like a job description in in another company. When you're creating that, you have to really think about, well, how do I measure to know if they're succeeding or not? And ideally, much of that measurement is built into the role and the way that they operate, and the way that the systems that they use, so that again, you can check on this and you don't have to find out about it secondhand. The thing that bothers me the most about the statement is that you said they feel they have lost her respect. So what that leads me to believe is that the problem is in the entrepreneurial investor relationship. For some reason, lost her respect. That seems to me like that there was either miscommunication, or there was perhaps lack of support by the franchisor to the franchisee, so they don't feel like they're getting the support that they need. There could be culture issues there, just in terms of like just like when you're in your own business, you have to maintain a culture. You have to now, as a franchisor, have to maintain a culture across all the franchisees as well. So there has to be systems in place to be able to do that. So you have to think, so all of that has to be implemented as part of the franchise system. So the lost her respect thing is going to be a tough one to handle. Now it goes back to being like an employee. So at the end of the day, a franchisor has a lot of rights over the franchisee to get them to do it the way that they want them to do, whatever it is that they want them to do. So procedurally, in your attorneys and people who deal on the legal side of this would be able to comment probably better. But procedurally, dealing with a franchisor who is not complying to the game plan, if the game plan is clear, of course, that'll be their argument. Their argument will be that the game plan is not clear, or that I wasn't supported, That's going to be what they're going to say. But assuming that that isn't the case, then you end up treating them essentially like an employee. So what's the issue? Okay, did we write it up? Were we clear that we communicated that there was an issue? Did they have time to remedy the issue, which is probably what the legal jargon says, so much time to remedy. Those are the, like, that's going to be the process. It's going to be write-ups. It's going to be documenting your position that they're not following the rules because of the lost her respect. I don't know if there's just a personality issue between perhaps one person at corporate and then the franchisee. Maybe just by you coming in and having this new perspective and new approach, there might be an opportunity to resolve some of that. But if the franchisee is not going to still go along with the plan, then why is she even in? I'm assuming it's a she. I don't know. He, she. Why is she still in the? Why does she want to even be in the business still, right? Like, so if she doesn't want to follow the plan, then why did you buy a franchise? That's like really the ultimate question. So if she's kind of done with following the plan, then and you're writing her up all the times, I mean, you've got legal recourse, of course, to take her franchise away, whatever the complexities related to that are legally. So anyway, I guess what I would say is go into the conversation with an open mind with this person, since it doesn't sound like you've talked to them much yet. You be the new face, you be the new person. Don't get offended by anything. Let her explain her position and kind of what she feels has been going right, what she feels has been going wrong. And you'll probably learn a lot about the company, because what I found in these situations, whether it's an employee or in this case a franchisee, even the most nutty employees sometimes make good points. So like if someone's a pain in the ass, they might be 90% a pain in the ass, and that might just be the problem, and that's maybe why things have to split. But even those people, if you listen, you can find good feedback to make things better. So I would just say go in, listen to what she has to say, try to do more questions than statements, ask more questions, make less statements in the initial conversations for sure. And it's going to be a little bit of investigation and being friendly, like just kind of trying to make a friend and kind of see where the conversation goes from there. You might be able to turn it around. Who knows? Maybe it's really just an opportunity. Maybe it just needs to have somebody listen. Sometimes that makes all the difference. Okay, next question. Bob Gagari? Sorry, Bob. How much of being successful in business is winning the game against yourself? Through a mastery of online poker back in the day, I realized that the key to success was to win the game against myself. Controlling my emotions, avoiding temptation, and deep thought on new information was the secret sauce. As I begun the maximize your mindset course, it seems like poker and business could be similar in these thoughts. So Bob, I would definitely say that the game against yourself, a person's self, an entrepreneur's self, is probably, as you suggest, most of it. 90%, I don't even put a percentage on it. It's probably 90%. Maybe in a way, in every element, it's 100%. In some, it touches on, I'd say it touches into it 100% of the time. Because if you want to talk kind of from a technical perspective, there's a great article in the Harvard Business Review, and I don't remember the name. There's also a TED Talk about this too, but I think the guy that wrote the article, that talks about what the secret sauce to success is for companies. And then they basically have different categories, like is it money, is it people, is it product, what is it? And so in the research that they do, and they do it with actual research, it isn't just their feelings, they find that the main component to success is timing. It really isn't product, it really isn't people, it really isn't money, it's timing, market timing. So there isn't a lot you can do about that. Like the only thing you can do with market timing is have a flexible enough perspective on what you do to match up your product or service with like product market fit at the time that it needs whatever it is you do. And which in itself, I guess, is a game against yourself, because you have to be willing and able to make those adjustments, those changes to your game plan as you go along. But taking those kind of technical things out of the conversation, it's 100% about you and about your mindset. Because, for example, if somebody is of the mindset, myself, this is a good example. It took me a long time. I can give you guys 20 years of experience right here. Longer than 20 years, I guess, at this point. In my earlier stages of being an entrepreneur, my thought process was, I can work harder, I'm smarter than, I have more energy than, I can stay up later, I can do all these things better than everybody else. So that's going to be my competitive advantage as I go along through my entrepreneurial career. That was a mindset. That was something that I decided was true, which is a much better mindset to have than, oh, I suck and nothing's going to work out for me and all these sorts of things. So if you're kind of skewing in that direction, you got to first step away from that, because that's not true. Every person has the same opportunity to make that decision in their mind that they are awesome and that they can work harder and they do have energy and all that sort of stuff. Where my mindset shifted was, and where I had to kind of battle against myself and win against myself, was I had to be willing to admit the things that I didn't want to do and that I didn't like to do, and that I had to figure out a way to get those things done in the context in which I was able to get them done. Because it's not just as easy as hiring other people. That's what we have a tendency to say. We have the tendency to say, let's just hire other people. But that's not so easy, like easy to do. Like, you can hire somebody, but to hire the right person, to get them managed, to get all that stuff figured out, is a real pain in the ass. So you have to make sure that when you go through that process, you approach it from a perspective of yourself in the figuring all the time. Because, like, for me, for example, I actually generally don't like managing people. I'm not a good manager of people, and I'm a good leader from like a visionary perspective, like here's the big picture, and I can kind of get everyone excited about what we're going to do. But once I get them excited about what we're going to do, when it really comes down to, like, now we have to get it done, I'm not that manager. That's not me. I don't like it. I don't think I'm particularly good at it, because I'm already thinking about the next visionary thing, and then I'm kind of confusing people along the way with kind of whatever. So my point is you have to take yourself into account all the time. I'm doing a talk, which I should do for you guys too at some point, about another, with another group, about why you're the most important person in your company. We talk a lot about our people in our companies and how to make them better and how to do things with them and whatever. But you're your most important person in your company at the end of the day. Like, it's all about you, because without you, it all stops. So you have to take into account who you are. Now, the game against myself phrasing, in my mind, means not that you have to necessarily do things that aren't what you would naturally do, but be aware of the things that you do naturally do and the way you naturally behave, and then build your systems that take into account those natural behaviors, so that you're not at odds with your business. Because if you're at odds with your business, you're not going to get anywhere anyway. Like, yeah, so it doesn't do any good to imagine or build a business that doesn't fit with who you are. So you're not really against yourself. It's more of just being aware of yourself and then building a system that complements yourself. That might be the right way to say it in this case. So yeah, we could have a whole conversation about that. Great question. Okay, next, Dan Razumowski. Great last name. Not sure if I pronounced it right. What is the best accounting process to implement to keep track of expenses during a project to track profitability in real time? I'm working construction, have multiple projects going on at one time. I need to know what costs go to what projects. Looking to scale to 10 projects at once. Need a scalable system for each location. Great, your mind is in the right place. If you're doing any type of construction or any other thing that is like a custom type product, you're not like manufacturing something that's the same constantly, like because you're going to different locations, it might be roughly the same, but there's different variables in every job. You definitely have to have a strong cost accounting system. So so a big part of that, so there's all kinds of software you can use. If you look up cost accounting SaaS products, there's probably a million of them that you can try and find something that's simple and that works for you. The company that I'm working with uses Asset, which is a great system, I understand from what they've been telling me. I haven't seen it, but there's a million of them. Or you could get creative within, even with this would be kind of a crappy way to do it. But if you don't have a lot of variables, you can try to use QuickBooks in some sort of ad hoc way to do your cost accounting, like where you're actually kind of like batching things or something. Like that's probably not a good idea. But the point is, there's a million softwares that you can do for cost accounting. And your head is in the right place because you do need to keep track of each item, because profitability per job on something like that is extremely important. If you're not tracking it and you are having large variability in your labor productivity, meaning like some jobs get done really fast and smoothly and others don't, what you might find is that some situations produce high profit and other situations produce low or negative profit when you really factor in. And then that might help direct your sales effort, because you might decide, well, these types of jobs, although higher gross revenue, end up breaking even or losing money, where these other little jobs that we can crank out, we make a lot of money on. So let's focus on those. So when you're thinking of business model and you're thinking about your product, knowing your costs and controlling your costs is like number one. So yeah, so I would just Google cost accounting SaaS products. There's a lot of stuff that they have on your phone, so you can do it you can have your guys do it while they're in the field. That becomes the next step, right? So once you choose what method you're going to use to track it, now you have to get people to actually use it. And then that's a whole nother conversation of how you make sure that people understand the value and why they have to do these things, and how they're kind of getting everyone on the same team and executing their processes efficiently. Because getting people to do what you need them to do, not only from a product delivery standpoint, but also from a record keeping standpoint, is like a big deal. Anyway, great. Your mind is in the right spot. Keep it up. Okay. And then it looks like we've got Dan Rosamal. You're going to make me say the last name twice, aren't you, Dan? Dan Rosamowski. Another question. For generating leads, what should be the best way to spend money? Home advisor? Should I spend money on SEO? Should I hire an agency to take care of all the needs? Should I focus on one platform or spread it out? Currently, I have 3 websites: ADO Inc., ADO Roofs, and ADOinc.net. I will be building ADO decks. I am building out the website so they can be more specialized and help out with SEO and have a wider reach of people. I do not know what the direction I should be heading with marketing. Hire different freelancers to manage Google Ads, Facebook. If I use Home Advisor, they send it to 5 people, and from all the leads I get, I only close about 40% due to the amount of people that they send them out to. Should I hire a marketing agency that will do the SEO, Facebook ads, and marketing for me to free up time and have them be fully accountable? I found one in Colorado, Marketing 360. They also include that it can use the Denver Broncos logo and the official Denver Broncos roof replacement and deck builders. The marketing agency will cost the most, but looking to get $1 million in sales for 2021. Need to really change up the game to get my own leads. We'll get to a budget of $2,000 a month on advertising. Okay, great. This is applicable to everybody. So whenever you're talking about marketing, the answer is I have no idea what's going to work for you. And frankly, you don't know what's going to work for you either at this point, because you haven't tested anything. The trick with marketing in my experience, is that you have to be willing to test. You're not going to do one thing, wait a week, and then like magic is going to happen. It's going to be an ongoing process of putting money out there, testing, measuring, and bringing it back. So regardless of who you want to hire or what path you want to try, that's the point. You're going to be trying it. A big recommendation that I do have is if you do hire an agency, make sure that you have a clear reporting method for you, that you want them to report back to you. The problem that I've seen with agencies many times, and this would be my recommendation if anyone listening to this is an agency, is many agencies, not saying all, but many agencies, it seems that most of their job is to kind of keep it looking like that they're doing something, and then at the end of the day they're just putting stuff out, but they're not measuring anything, and so they're really just putting stuff out with no idea if it's doing anything. Like the best agency would do your job for you, in that they would be able to show you, this week we put this out, this is the result we got, this is the tweak we're going to make to try to make it better. This is what we did this week, here's what we got, now the tweak, we're going to make it better. That's the best agency there is. Most agencies don't work like that. They usually just say, we're going to spend this much money on Facebook ads, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. They do that, and then there's really no measurement or follow-up on what's working, what's not working. There's no objective for them to produce any particular outcome. So regardless of what path you go down, highly recommend be clear on how you're going to measure its success. And success can't be, oh, I got a sale out of it, because there's a million little steps along the way before you get the sale. There's all the intermediary kind of conversions that happen as people move through like a sales funnel. So you have to make sure you're clear on that. So I would recommend staying focused. Pick one way you want to approach it. Maybe it's Facebook ads, or I'm not a huge fan of Facebook ads. Actually, you said that the Home Advisor was you're getting a 40% closing rate on the stuff they send you. So can you get more of those? 40% closing rate is pretty good. And also you could probably capture more if they're sending it to 5 people. I don't know what your turnaround time is on that, but I knew a company that like doubled their revenue just by responding to that sort of stuff faster, right? So like if it's a competitive environment where they're sending it to a bunch of people, like if you had the best system for a response to that quickly, you can maybe raise that 40% to 80%. Now you've doubled the amount of revenue you're getting out of that one channel. So I'd say pick one of these things and then figure out how to really maximize that, and then move on to the better, like whatever other things you want to try as well, as long as you're measuring it all along the way. And that's good. That's good advice for anybody who is doing any type of sales and marketing, which everybody is. So listen to that, the idea that you have to measure your marketing. Okay. Oh, one other thing about roofs and home, the decks thing. I don't know if there's any reoccurring revenue in that or not, or if there is, what value there is, but I knew a company, actually in Colorado, funny enough, a guy that grew a roofing company from like a few $100,000 to $15 million all through acquisitions. So you have to be careful about that, because you don't want to buy stuff that isn't repeatable. But if you're buying companies that have some sort of connection or strong place, you can grow a lot through acquisitions in that space, because they're big ticket items mostly. So it adds up quick. Okay, next question. Zach Knock. How do you avoid entrepreneurial burnout, and what are some things I can do to change up my duties from day to day? I own a security company. We specialize in working with access control, cameras, and security systems for both commercial and residential applications. I'm feeling slightly burnt out from all the tasks that I have to do throughout the days and weeks. Sales, invoicing, weekly expense reviews, meetings, installation of projects and service. I have a morning meditation I do to try and get my mind in the right place, as well as mountain bike riding. It seems as if I have a robot brain or something. I want every day to be my honeymoon day. Haha. I appreciate the time answering this question. Okay, Zach. Yeah, you're right. Entrepreneurial burnout, any type of burnout, in my opinion, whether it's entrepreneurial or otherwise, um, is a problem for people when they're doing the wrong things for them. Um, when you think back to that idea of the battle against yourself, the battle against yourself is trying to, if you take that at like a literal phrase, you're the battle against yourself would be doing the things that you don't want to do, or that you don't like to do, or you don't naturally do. Um, and you can do that for a while, and maybe you have to do that for a while as you try to grow things and move things along. But again, you have to be very aware of what those things are and make those the top priority to get rid of as quickly as possible. Because if you try to do it, I'm guilty of this. I did this many times in my career, if you, without even thinking it, because I wasn't listening to anyone else. Like you guys are smart enough to do. I was not paying attention to anything other than myself. Um, you have to listen to your own reaction to things, and if it's painful to be doing it, you can only do it for so long. You have to figure out a different way of getting the same result. Sometimes we think we have to do something a particular way because that's the way we always do it, but then that's just because that's what our mindset is. We decided that was the way we had to do it, and that's the reason that we do it, is because that's what we decided. You could just as easily maybe take a different approach. Like, I mean, I don't know, like, depending on which of these things it is that you don't like and that are not a good fit for you, how do you remove those? Like, I mean, installation of projects. I don't know, because I don't know your business, but installation of projects. Okay, that sounds like a very tactical, operational, I just have to do the work side of things. How do you change your model so that you don't have to do that? Maybe there's a different approach that gives you instant scalability, so you don't have to do the installation part of the whole thing. Maybe, the answer isn't always, I need to hire somebody to do that. And maybe it is, but that's not always the answer. Maybe sometimes it's just a business model change. Sometimes it's like, again, breaking down the individual activities within the business. What's the thing that makes the most money? What's the activity that's driving the most revenue, driving the most profit? What part of our business is the least valuable? What is just like the necessary evils? Okay, let's approach those necessary evils and kind of figure out how to offload those, whether it's through third-party people that we hire, outsourced, whatever. Maybe we get rid of that stuff, or maybe we just redesign our business model so that stuff doesn't exist anymore. That's my favorite thing to do. I love just changing up the entire business model so that we just take out the crap that we don't want to do. We don't even have to deal with it. Like, people deal with so much junk in their business just because it kind of just gets piled on, and then they just kind of keep doing it, and then they keep trying to make it more and more and more efficient within something that is kind of inherently inefficient or inherently not a good fit for the business. I mean, Apple, not to use these giant examples, but Apple is a great example of focus, because they've got all this, they've got, very expensive products relative to other products in the market. And I don't remember what the exact percentages are, but it's something like Apple's market share is like 20%, 15%. I don't know what it is. It's something low, 10, 30%. That's their market share, but their share of profit in the market is like 80%. So they don't try to capture 80% of the whole market. They don't have to do everything. They just do the stuff that makes them a lot of money, and then they capture all of that profit in the market. So it's kind of the same thing in your own brain. You don't have to think in terms of, I'm going to do all this stuff and provide all this stuff for my business. I'm going to take just the stuff that makes me the most money. I'm going to focus on that. And then I'm going to be unapologetic that I'm not going to offer a million different things to a million different people. That's another thing that we try to do when we're starting up businesses. We a lot of times are trying to find where we fit in the world, and so we say yes to a lot of stuff, which is good, because yes is a certain amount of experimentation with that. But you have to be aware of why you're saying yes. If you're saying yes to test, great. If you're saying yes because you're putting yourself in shackles because now you're just another thing you got to do and you're not really making any money at it, then maybe you got to remember Apple and be like, well, I'm going to focus on this smaller percentage of activity that's going to maximize my profit. But yeah, and you have to you have to be yourself. You have to take yourself into account. You can't think of yourself as a robot, as you said, because you're not a robot and you're not going to be able to do that very long. Or even if you can, you're going to be miserable your whole life. So don't be miserable. That's my philosophy. Don't be miserable. Okay. Kyle Stroud. I'm looking to hire someone to monitor inventory levels and make purchasing decisions. Should I use cheap out-of-country employees, friends, family, job search sites, etc.? I'm an Amazon seller. I purchase products at wholesale prices and ship the products to Amazon warehouses, which then fulfill orders to my customers. After speaking to Sean, I know that I need to hire people to do the work that I don't enjoy. Inventory needs to be monitored daily, and the employees will need to use tools and my past sales performance on these products to make an educated guess on how many units need to be purchased. This is a crucial part of the business. If I have no inventory in stock, I can't make money. Yep. Perfect. The thing that you said there is this is a crucial part of the business. This is an absolutely crucial part of your business. If you don't have inventory, you can't make money. If you buy too much or you buy the wrong inventory, you just wasted a lot of money. There's a lot of issues here around this process. So my suggestion is you look at your individual steps in this process and you document it. And you really think through it. I don't know for sure, but if I had to guess, most people in your situation don't document it because they've been doing it themselves. And you just do it off the top of your head, and you just kind of like, you just do what you've done. There's no documentation around it. I don't mean, and again, when I say documentation, I'm not saying it because you need to do some schoolwork, so do homework. I'm not saying it for that reason, because I hate that stuff. I don't want to do stuff just to do it. I'm saying it because you learn something from it. If you sit down and you actually think through how the process works, and if you were going to explain it to somebody else, and you were going to document it in a way that you could, whether it's through Loom videos or writing it down, or both, once you go through that process, you're going to start to discover what the process actually looks like. Make a flow chart, right? I love flow charts. Read the little squares, and this happens, and then the arrow, and this happens, and that, so on and so forth. I love that stuff. So do that for this process. Make sure you have it clearly defined. Make sure you've made it as clean, as efficient as possible, and make sure that you've built the KPIs, key point indicators, into the process so that someone can be aware of if the person doing the work is doing what they're supposed to be doing or not, and producing the outcomes or not that they want, right? Because you can make a whole big process, hand it to somebody, and then walk away, and then like 2 weeks later come back and realize the person has spent $1 million extra on stuff that was bullshit or whatever, and then like now you're screwed. So you have to make sure you have those checks and balances in there to maintain it. So figure all that out, conceptualize it first. Then you can start talking about, well, who do I need to hire, right? Who do I need to hire? Because you'll know exactly how long it's going to take them. You'll know how much work they have to do. You'll know what kind of smarts they have to have or don't have to have. In my opinion, if you can create a good process, if you spend a lot of time making the process good and as efficient as possible, you can hire cheaper people because they don't have to be as forward thinking in the case of something that's a mess. Because if something's a mess, you have to pay people more because they have to be constantly cleaning it up. Where if something is very streamlined, think of it like a production line. Think of everything like a production line in manufacturing. That's what you want to get to with every bit of your business. So if you can get this process to like a production line, then you can hire a production line type person. And maybe it's an outsourced foreign person. Maybe it's friends and family. Maybe it's a general job search. Who knows? But planning all that out and having all those systems in place is going to be the key. to what you're doing before you hire anybody. But yeah, I think I'll just leave it at that. All right, next question. Jamal Khan. Who should quote the first price during a negotiation? Should I ask my client for a ballpark number, or should I state my prices, assuming rapport or value proposition have all been set? I have a consultancy business where I have taken clients on call to close them. I usually quote my prices first and then wait for them to respond. But lately I've read a book which states that in negotiation you have to first ask your client for a number, because without knowing that, you'd be negotiating in the dark. Okay. I have a bunch of questions or thoughts running through my head here. The first thing I want to recommend to everybody in relation to this question is a book called Persuasion. Persuasion. It basically talks about how you can kind of set a conversation based on the things that you talk about before you get into price and selling and all that stuff, that get you closer. It gets the person's mind moving in the direction that you want them to move. The book's called Persuasion. It's a great book. One of the things that they say in that, because it's the way our brains work, actually it's that book, and then there's another book on Persuasion is kind of like the more like business book version of this, and then if you want the more academic kind of hardcore research version, the book is Thinking Fast and Slow. That's kind of like the more researched, like academic approach to the same book, but it's kind of a similar subject. It's actually very much a similar subject. It's the same subject. And in that book, they talk about anchoring, which is I love the concept of anchoring because I can see it affecting me all the time. Anchoring is a great concept because it our brains get hooked on something. That's why it's anchoring, and now they're stuck with it, right? So what I would say, like in your example that you gave, I'm sitting at, whatever, just using one possibility. Let's say my price that I want is $3,000. So I would say, now Persuasion goes into one direction. One part of thing that comes up is you can say any number above $3,000 for any reason. You can say there's 30,000 miles around the earth. Did you know that? And then say, but my price is $3,000. In people's brains, the way our brains work, the fact that you said 30,000 miles, which isn't even the same conversation, sets the person's mind up there. And then when you say $3,000, there's a brain thing where they think that's a deal now because you just said 30,000 miles. Even though they're not the same units and it has nothing to do with anything, there's kind of like a weird brain thing there. So that talks about that in the Persuasion book. It's kind of a funny concept. But there's all these kind of little things. And then anchoring, which is similar but a little bit different, is the idea that you've set your price so that the person feels, this is why sales work, right? Because if I show you a shirt and the shirt tag says $80, now I've been anchored to $80 for the cost of that shirt. Even though the person selling the shirt wants to sell the shirt for $30 because the sale price is $30. So in my mind, I'm thinking, whoa, it was $80, now it's $30. That's a good deal. So that's kind of like where that, but it's made up. The shirt's only worth $30 if that's what I pay for it. It's not worth $80 if no one's paying $80 for it. So you kind of can do the same thing. If you see this picture right back here, kidding, I only kind of see half of it. That's the Big Hot Dog. If you guys have ever went to bighotdog.com, it was this silly product that I created with some people a bunch of years ago. The Big Hot Dog was a 7-pound, 16-inch hot dog that we sold nationally and all over the world. The Big Hot Dog was cost, if I remember correctly, $129 plus shipping and handling. That's the retail cost, $129 plus shipping and handling. The hot dog, we determined people would not pay more than $100, $95 plus shipping and handling. They would not pay $129. But we always set it to $129 Because if we asked people to pay $95 directly, they wouldn't pay it. But if we set the price to $129, and I think we actually ended up even higher than that at one point. I think we ended up like 160. I don't remember. But the point is it was we knew people wouldn't pay over 100 under any circumstances. But if we had a higher price which anchored them higher, and then we had a sale running all the time for 95, then we started getting results, and then it started to work. And that was 95 plus shipping and handling, and shipping and handling was another $30. So they were still paying like the same 120, 130 bucks we wanted them to pay. So my point is that when you get into these conversations about how to negotiate a price, there's all kinds of different things to consider. And to get to your question specifically, you talked about first ask your client their number. Yeah, you have to have an idea of what their number is, but it kind of doesn't matter. I mean, I don't know exactly what you're doing, how you price what you're doing exactly, but at the end of the day, it really just matters what you want to charge. Because if they don't want to pay it, then they're not the right customer for you. And so if you have flexibility in what you can charge and maybe what you offer based on what they can pay, that's fine. But know what that range is. And if they're going to drop below that range, they're not the right customer, so forget it anyway. And the other thing that I would recommend, which I found to be really the case, is take forever to get to the price. Make sure you can really articulate the value that you provide, because if you can't articulate that, then any price is going to seem too high, right? If I can't tell you what the value of what I do is, then how are you in your mind going to decide what the price is that you're willing to pay? So you have to be very clear about articulating what your value proposition is before you even get to a price conversation. Because once you get to a price conversation, the client should be like, yeah, no brainer, because I already know from what you told me that $10,000, I'm going to make $10,000 off the work you do. So sure, I'll pay you $3,000 so that I can make $10,000. That's the math everybody's doing, like it or not. No matter what business you're in, everybody is doing that math that I just did. Am I paying less for the value that I'm getting? So it's your job as the salesperson to articulate the value at a high enough number that's clear and reasonable, and hopefully you're able to deliver that at that higher number. And now you've set your price lower than what that value is, because if there isn't a spread in there, you're not going to sell anything. Even if it's 10,000 and 10,000, you're not going to sell anything. It's 10,000 and something lower than that is what you're going to charge as your price. Now that doesn't mean you can't get your price really close to that 10,000. It just depends on what your market is and what business you're in. But the point is you need to articulate your value very, very clearly in an ideal world in financial terms to your client, because that way then once they know in their mind what it's worth in dollars, when you quote them a price, they're going to just decide if that spread is a good enough price and if they believe you can deliver. Those are the two things. Is the spread good? Are they happy with the quote-unquote profit they're going to make on the transaction? And do they believe you can deliver? Because if they don't believe that you can deliver, then that's also another reason they're not going to do it for any price that you offer them. All right, cool. Next question. Allison Koyanagi. What is the best way to pass a fee for a new software onto my clients? I'm a digital marketing agency. I have a new software that I want to introduce to my clients, but it does cost me a fee every month to use it. It will improve customer service and communication with clients. Since the fee is a bit high, I was going to pass this fee on to my clients, which will end up being nominal for them if I spread it out. How do I go about wording my email to them about this new fee? I want to express that this new software will bring a lot of value to them while also explaining why I'm raising their rates. I also don't want to make them angry for raising rates on them during this sensitive time when businesses are struggling. Thank you for your time and expertise. Okay, because you said if I spread it out, I'm guessing it's a fixed rate cost to you, meaning like you're paying some amount per month and you can use it across all your clients. You don't have to pay each client. It's not a variable cost, it's a fixed cost to you. Because if you divide it out over more clients, the cost per client gets cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. That's what I'm assuming based on what you said there. So depending on what that number is, I don't know. Being that this is probably a SaaS software you're talking about, I don't know how much it is per month. Maybe is it $300 a month divided by 6 clients, so it's $50 a month more. I don't know. I guess that goes back to the idea that what is the value that you're driving for your clients? Can you measure that value? Do they know the value? Because if you are, then you're also talking about just a price increase. Like, they don't really care why you're raising the price. They honestly don't. They don't care. You can explain to them all day long that it's because of the software and it's going to be great and all these things. But unless you're able to show them that for their extra $50 a month, this software is going to generate X, Y, Z, like it's another sale conversation. This is just a price increase conversation. I don't think, just me, I don't think explaining why they're getting the price increase is really going to help you any. I think a better conversation is what's the percentage price increase you're going after. Another Harvard Business Review article, I really should know the titles of these off the top of my head, but you can Google it, that talks about price increases and about how they did a whole study about how much you can raise people's prices on average before they pay any real attention to it. And the magic number was like 8%. If you're not raising the price over 8% on an annual basis, most industries, people don't pay attention. It's not enough to think about it like at 8%. Like if you were charging them $1,000 and you say, hey, I'm going to raise it to $1,080, it's not enough for them to like, well, now I got to find a different provider. Now I got to do a bunch of work. Like, they're not going to think too hard about it. So it depends on how much you want to raise it. But I guess I would recommend that if it's a lower number, like 8% or less, I wouldn't go into like a big giant explanation. I would just say, I would probably just say something to the effect of like, hey, 2021, we love having you as a client, and like really tell them all the great things you've done for them over the last year or the last bit of time. Tell them why the relationship is so great and you love it so much, and you're continuing to provide top tier service, and as such, as our costs go up, we're raising our costs by $30 or whatever it is. I don't know what it is, but something simple, sweet. Spend the time talking about how great your relationship is, and don't dwell on the price part of it. Just kind of like slip that in there at the end. Do like the sandwich. I always like the sandwich. Great, like good news, the price increase, and then some more good news. Like kind of like put it in that structure, and then bye, see you later, as we, whatever. Like that would probably be my approach, because I don't think you're going to be raising the price so significantly due to the software. I don't think that it would take like a major conversation. That's my thought, but I might be wrong because I don't know anything about what's going on. Okay. Yeah, and I think it really does come down to, again, what value are you providing already for them? If you're providing good value and you're providing more than that additional cost that you're going to ask them for, then you're not going to have any problem at all. If you don't know that you're providing and they don't know that you're providing more than that additional cost that you're going to ask them for, well, then you might have a problem. But then you have a problem with the business in general if you don't know that, or they don't know that. Either one. Okay, I think that's it. Those are all my questions that I had for today. I appreciate everybody's time and listening, and if I can do anything for anybody, let me know. I'm always happy to talk with people and see what they have going on, and listen to the exciting stories that they have as they go upon their journey. So that's it. I will see you guys next month, and don't forget, when you're making logos, Be careful of what letters look like. That looks like a P, so it looks like it says Pooh Fighter. All right. Thanks, guys. I'll see you later. Bye.